Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome to the Wrestle Dude YouTube channel, where today we are beginning a project that I've actually already done. So, the story behind why this video is being made. I did this custom set of Toni Storm and Mariah May in the Hollywood ending custom action figure packaging and all that sort of stuff, and it was really good. I posted it on Instagram. Everybody was going crazy for it. There was a few people that were asking like if it was for sale, which I was hesitant on, especially considering how much I really like this. And then there was a fan that had messaged me asking if it was for sale, and she is apparently a very big Toni Storm, Mariah May fan, big fan of their rivalry. Understandable. It is one of AEW's best stories they've ever told. And I was thinking, you know what? One of the goals that I had for 2025 was to sell a custom figure, and I didn't get to accomplish that goal. I had some stuff for sale. It was just, nobody was interested. So, of course, at the very tail end of the year is when people start saying, like, oh, I'll buy one. But that just means we have a goal for next year. And it seems like we're going to be able to meet that goal almost immediately, because I decided I'm going to, for the first time ever, well, actually not first time ever. I did it with an Uncle Howdy. But we'll say for the first time ever for the women, I am going to make another set of customs of both Toni and Mariah and the box and the accessories, all for this fan. I'm going to sell it off, and it's going to be awesome. But I decided to do this little video to kind of show all the steps of what it's going to take to complete this and turn these two figures. These are the exact same figures that I used to create these. So I'm going to show all the steps that went into creating these from these. So yeah, this is going to be very fun, but I'm also very nervous, because I was nervous just doing this because I wasn't sure it was going to turn out as great as it did. Now I have to replicate how great it looked, and that's one of the reasons why I was always hesitant to sell customs, because even to this day, I don't think my stuff is worthy enough to be sold to people, because I'm always worried, like, once the person gets it, they're going to, like, message me, like, this is crap, I want my money back, and yada, yada, yada. I'm like, I feel comfortable with this, especially considering there were multiple people that were interested in this. Like, clearly I must have done something right to warrant that many people wanting this. And so, yeah, I feel comfortable selling a set custom made by me. So, just to kind of give you guys a little bit of a rundown of how I'm going to make this happen. So we'll start with the Toni Storm. So the Toni Storm, all we're going to do is just basically some Dremel, some epoxy, and some repaint. So as you can see here, we're going to keep this head sculpt. I'm going to Dremel off this little swoosh in the hair and use some epoxy sculpt to resculpt it and do it like that. I'm kind of bummed that they used this head sculpt for the figure. I kind of wish they would have used the more standard face that they did for Toni Storm for the black and white figure, but this one still works too. It's pretty good. Next, what we're going to do, I'm going to take my Dremel and Dremel down these straps for the shoulders. The shoulder straps for the custom have to be thinner, and I'm going to use epoxy sculpt for that as well. Then we have to fix these thigh parts right here. I have to go in with a Dremel and Dremel down these thighs, so that way it becomes more of this little one-piece area. And then from there, we got to do the wrist tape. So at first, I was contemplating whether or not I just wanted to paint the wrist tape, and then I thought about using epoxy sculpt for the wrist tape, but then I just used some Scotch tape, some Mod Podge to make it harden, and then I went over it in a layer of white paint, and then I went over it with a little bit of red paint for the blood. So that's how I ended up doing the wrist tape here, and I actually really like the look of it. It makes it look very, very realistic. So that's how we're going to do the wrist tape, and then for this, it's just going to be a quick repaint on the boots. On these boots, it is black with white laces. For this figure, it needs to be white boots with black laces. So that's just going to be a quick repaint for that. So that's what we got to do for the Toni Storm. The Mariah is going to be a little bit more work, and it's gonna be interesting. So first thing I'm going to do, and I need to remember to do this when I go to the store tomorrow, I need to buy more Q-tips, because I need to use acetone to get off these little ribbon I guess, designs on here. I need to do that. Same thing with the designs on the arms and the shoulders here. I need to get rid of those. I need to, well, I guess I can do this part right now. Pop off the head. I need to get off these little shoulder pads right here and get rid of those. And then from there, pretty much all we're going to do with Mariah is just a repaint. Oh, I also need to get off this little belt fabric right here, but for Mariah, it's mostly just going to be a repaint job, and it's going to be pretty basic. Everything's just going to be repainted white. I'm going to take this armband, and as you can see on the armband right here, it's just a straight up white band around the arm. With this, it comes with this little flag logo, so the way I did it on here, I just took some scissors and cut down the armband to where it was that little straight band. And then when I put it back on, obviously there was still like a little bit of the flag showing. So when I put it back on, I just spun it around to where the flag part wasn't visible. And it just looked like a plain old white band with a little bit of blood on it. And then for the legs here, we're going to replicate that little black ribbon there. So the line that goes all the way around the leg is actually just made with a paint pen, and then little black pieces of fabric were glued on to give it that look. And then, yeah, like I said, other than that, it's just going to be a white paint job. And then what I'm going to do, and this was actually clever of me, she has this little fur tuft on this side of her leg that's kind of covered in blood. So what I'm actually going to do, I'm going to reuse one of these shoulder pads and put it on her waist right here. So that's where that's going to come from. So I don't just throw away all the parts that come off of these figures. I actually reuse them. So that's what we got to do for Mariah. I said it's going to be a little bit more work. It's more so just because, like, once these come off, there's going to be these little holes in the shoulders here that we have to, like, repaint in. We're probably going to have to go over this in multiple layers of white. I got to acetone all the logos off. I got to make sure the shading is correct for the white. And then after that, we go in and we make it all bloody. So, yeah, those are the steps that we got to do to make our Mariah May and Toni Storm from this into this. And then after that, I'll just take the shoe that came with this Toni Storm, give it a little white paint job here with a little bit of red for the blood, and then same thing with the belt. I'm just gonna take a little bit of red paint and splatter some blood on it, and then from there, yeah, I'm just gonna grab a basic Mattel table, and I think I still have this logo somewhere on my computer where I can just print it off and size it correctly to where it will fit this table. So we'll do that, and then, yeah, I'll buy another box off of Ringside Collectibles, print off all these logos and stuff, and get it all set together. So I'm going to show you guys some footage of me creating this. I don't know how long this is going to take, so I'm filming this on December 27th. I'm literally watching AEW World's End right now. The tag title match just ended with FTR retaining, so that is the timetable that I am beginning this. So I'll let you guys know when I'm doing certain things and how long it'll take for all the parts to come in, and then at the end we'll see the finished results and do a little side-by-side between my first version and my second version that will be sold off. So hope you guys enjoy this little video coming up. Okay, so those are off. Let's see, I'm also going to take off, well, actually I keep the armband on, so I need to pop the torso. There. Okay, take this off. Hopefully this will come off easily. Came off pretty easily. Okay, and then the legs need to come off. And hopefully I don't have to heat those up. Let's see, this little belt can come off. Let's see, yeah, there you can see the shoulder bits. Those might need filled in with a little bit of epoxy sculpt. Yeah, these legs need to come off of the crotch piece so I can acetone these off properly. But I might need some heat. Great. Let's see, so for this, the boots need to come off and the legs need to come off. So I'm gonna need some heat real quick. Let me get my... I lost the Q-tip. Okay. This thing gets very hot very quickly, so let's be careful. Okay. Is that hot? Yeah, it's pretty hot. Okay, so we got that. Hold on, make sure that doesn't fall off. Okay, let's see if this will work. Okay, see, it comes off very, very quickly, very easily. Just a little bit of heat. Alright, so now that we got that disconnected, now we see where the acetoning has to go with all the little ribbony bits. And actually, I just remembered these boots have to come off too. So, back to the heat. I try not to let the heat go on forever. Come on. There we go. Okay, there's one foot. But yeah, I try not to let the heat go on forever, just because it might mess up the gun after a while. Okay, let's try that. Come on. Come on, baby. I thought that was enough heat. I'm trying not to stretch out the plastic of the rest of the leg, though. Come on, and don't rip. Oh my god, it's right there. There we go. Alright, cool. So we got the other boot out. Okay, so first thing we can do, this little belt piece, this little heart, needs to be made into just a flat line. So I'm going to use these brand spanking new scissors. So this will be a nice clean cut, hopefully. Okay. Alright, perfect. One side down, cutting like butter. Oh, look at that. Perfect. And then I'm going to use a Dremel to slightly shave that down just a little bit more. Because, yeah, we need to make that flat. Okay, so we got that. Got that. We're cruising, we're cruising. We can do the acetone now. So I'm going to use this nail polish remover, dip it. And we're going to acetone off these shoulder bits here. And then we're going to acetone off the little ribbons on the legs. And actually, while we're here, I can also cut down this armband. So, same thing we did like with the belt. I'm going to cut down this little flag down into a flat thing. There we go. And I could have just painted the armband on and just made it like a white stripe or whatever, but I felt like doing this instead. There we go. Alright, so that is now a flat line. We'll just paint that white when the time comes. For now, I'm just going to sit it up there, along with all these other little fur bits and the belt. Just the tiny pieces that I feel like are going to go missing very quickly. We're going to put those all up there. Now, we're going to use the acetone. So, I've got a couple of Q-tips here. This is actually the last of the Q-tips that I had in my old container. I had to go out and buy some more. So, we're going to go ahead, start with this shoulder right here, just as an example. And I might have to pull down on the arm socket just a little bit to get to this part, like, really deep in here. So, we're going to dip the Q-tip in the acetone, get off some of the excess. Then we're going to go in here, and then just slide it on down, get that factory paint off. Just slightly. I'm not going to press too much. There we go. Hopefully you guys are seeing this. I can't. Oh yeah, you're seeing it. Okay, cool. I don't really film the process of me making stuff, so I don't know how to do the camera angles and all that. And then I'm going to use this side to kind of get off some of the excess. So it's a little bit white, but I can just go back through, kind of acetone off that little top layer of white. and then it'll get it more back to that skin tone. And then we're going to do the exact same thing on the other side as well. Let me see if I can't use this. There we go. I try not to over dip that many times, because then you will start to notice a color difference in the skin tones. Now we're going to use the other side, get off the excess, right up here. And there you go. And then we're going to go around the arm here, start under the armpit. There we go. This one, since it's like 3 different layers of colors, it might take a little bit. Couple different things of Q-tips and acetone to get it all off. Okay, so there you see, shoulders no longer have the armband logos and stuff on them, so that's good. Push that aside. Next step is to acetone off these ribbons on the legs. And I do appreciate the attention to detail with the ribbons on the legs. They look very good. It's just we don't need them anymore for this custom. So I'm going to go in, acetone, and boom. Just like that. Easy peasy. So ribbon there. Ribbon not there. Easy peasy. Okay, then we'll switch back over. And acetone off the rest of this. Yeah, looking pretty clean. Plus, it doesn't matter if I get off like all of the paint off this, because we do still need to cover it in a little bit of red, like blood colored paint, so we can kind of cover up any blemishes or anything like that with this. So we're going to go ahead and do the other foot here, or the other leg here as well. All right, so we've got both of the legs acetoned off, so that's good. All right, so the next bit that we need to do is, you see on this top here, this little bit right here, we need to Dremel that off, and then other than that, I think we just need to Dremel off the shoulder straps as well. So I have my Dremel with my little attachment here. This isn't the one that I normally use, but the one that I normally use has gone missing. And I'm fairly certain I've lost it entirely, because I remember it last sitting in its little accessory case right here on my desk. And the problem is, my trash can is right next to my desk, so I'm thinking at some point it fell off into the trash can, got covered in trash, and I might have accidentally thrown it away. So I am going to have to buy new Dremel attachments, because it is nowhere else in this entire room, so I'm just going to assume that it fell in the trash, and I need to get replacements. So I'm going to be using this Dremel attachment. It's very similar to the other one that I had, so I'm sure it'll work pretty fine. If not, I will scream. Anyways, so we're going to use the Dremel to get off these shoulder straps here, and then do this little bit right here. Okay. Alright, so you can kind of see what we're going for here. And actually, now that I think about it, should be using a little bit of acetone here. Got this tip from one of the best on Instagram, Coltez. Works for Mattel now for their wrestling figure department, but they are a very good customizer, and they gave me a tip to use a little bit of acetone when using the Dremel. So I am implementing that tip right now. Alright, a little bit more. I need to kind of re-sculpt this top too, so I kind of need to Dremel off this like collar, or like this breast area, to kind of smoothen it out. And then the shoulder straps. There you can see I kind of have a outline of the chest area that I need to remold. So from here, I am going to have to get the shoulder straps off. Alright. So now they're starting to come off. I also need to do this part back here, and then I'll show you what it looks like after we're done. Alright, so that is the finished look after the dremeling, and I also put some acetone on it, kind of get the plastic to smooth out, so looks very good, looks very nice, and some parts of this will be covered up with epoxy sculpt later, so we'll be able to kind of repaint and bloody this all up later, but that looks good. So the next thing I need to dremel are actually up here by the legs. You'll notice they'll have that like little fabric area for the outfit for the pants. We don't want that. We want these to be kind of smoothed out, so I am going to have to probably acetone these down to the skin tone, and then I could use sandpaper, but I don't get that many good results when using sandpaper, so I may have to just dremel this, but I don't know. We'll see how that goes. But yeah, I need to do that, and then I need to dremel off this little swoosh of hair right here, and I need to remold that, so that's going to be the next little bit that I need to do here. Alright, so after using the Dremel, and I also used some acetone and sandpaper, that is what the legs look like, so not too shabby, looking pretty good. So that is basically our base for the Toni Storm figure, and then the Mariah May is pretty much done as well. So that is going to be the body for Mariah. And then obviously the legs, I'm going to keep these unattached for right now, just for when I go to paint. So the last thing that I need to Dremel here is going to be Toni's hair swoosh. And I've mentioned it before, but I didn't really like the idea of them using this particular head sculpt for the Jazzwares Vault. I kind of wish they would have just picked the more neutral face, but you know, we'll work with what we got here. So I am going to go ahead and Dremel this. So let me get my headlamp on here, get back to work, click this sucker on. Alright, so I'm only going to Dremel off a little bit. I'm going to try and keep some of the pattern here, so that way when I mold it with the epoxy sculpt, I'll already have like a little bit of a line that I can follow. So it's not even going to take that much effort or work. So I'm just going to Dremel off the swoosh. Minus the swoosh. No more swoosh. Alright, here we go, Toni. Ready for your close-up? Just a little off the top. Boom. Just like that. So it's softened the plastic to where I can just rip it off just like that. And I can go in here and rip that off. I can go in here with my scissors, cut off a little bit here to smoothen it out. There we go. All right. Darling, you look fabulous. So that is the end result of our Toni haircut. So we're going to take some epoxy sculpt and mold that swoosh over. All right, so that is pretty much all that we are doing Dremel wise, so I can take this off for now. Okay, so That's good, that's good. So next thing we need is the epoxy sculpt slash putty. So what I'm going to use here is this epoxy putty tape. So how you use this, you roll out the tape. It's a two-step epoxy. We're going to go ahead, cut off just a tiny bit here. There we go. And then it comes wrapped in this little like layer of plastic film. You gotta take that off. Okay, I think it's off on the other side as well. I think. Oh, nope. Okay, there's that side. And where's the other side? Is it off? Pretty sure it's off. Okay, cool. Alright, so we got this. We're gonna mix it together. It'll make like a dark green. That means it's ready to be used on our projects. And what I'm going to use this little bit for, I'm going to use it, as you saw with that Mariah figure. So there's that dark green. On the Mariah figure, when he took off the shoulder pieces, it left those little holes. Same thing with like right here on their side. We're going to fill those gaps in. So I'm just going to take a tiny bit of green putty here and put it inside the little shoulder peg right there. There we go. And I know the hair will probably cover this, but it's just going to annoy me, the fact that there's a little hole right there. So we're just going to cover that up. Same thing with the other shoulder. We got to do this on the back as well. So those are all the shoulder holes filled in. Just want to kind of fill it in and smoothen it out. Then we're going to do it here on the hip of the gear, where that little flag thing came off. There we go. So got that there. Smooth that out. There we go. All right. Good stuff. All right. So that's now smoothed out. The shoulders are now filled in, and like I said, obviously the head is going to kind of cover the hair, but you can see the parts are still kind of sticking out. I also am going to, you know what, while I have the Dremel out, I'm also going to kind of fix the head here. And I'm going to Dremel this peg, because I don't like the way the head sits on the head peg. I think it sits a little bit too high, gives her a bit of a giraffe neck, so I'm only going to Dremel out the bottom of the head just a tiny bit. It'll sit better, hopefully. Okay, let's see how that fits. There we go. Okay, so there we go. See, the head sits a little bit better. So it was like right up here. See what I mean with that little giraffe neck? So I Dremeled it down, and now it sits lower. So I think it looks a little bit more natural like that. So I like the look of that. All right, so we have our base for Mariah, we have our base for Toni, we have our Dremeled haired Toni head, and then we've got the legs. So I'm going to use some epoxy sculpt and do the hair here as well. So go ahead and take some more of this. We need that sort of hairstyle on this, so we need to replicate that. Okay, so let's see here. Okay, so there to there. All right, so I'm going to start with like one line going all the way over and kind of loop down over the ear into that little hair swoosh. Okay. Oops. Okay, so we're going to loop this down. I'm going to try and show you guys this. So we'll loop this down to there, pushing down as we go. Loop that down, and boom. Okay, so that's kind of our guideline right there. I'm going to do this again. Oop, hold on. Okay, do that again. Maybe do it a little bit thicker. There we go. Okay, So whip that down, up, down, and around, and swoosh. Okay, cool. So, like I said, there is our starting point. Now you can see the vision. Not that vision. Okay. Okay. Let's see here. Okay, so we're gonna take a big chunk here. Like I said, just swoosh it over. And it's okay if it looks a little clumpy in places, just because like it's supposed to look kind of like frantic, messed up hair. I mean, this is during a bloodbath match, so shouldn't be too strange of a look. Okay. Do a couple more here. May even go in, if I can here. There we go. So get that. Get some hair marks in there too. And then what I may do, I might even go in and using this hair piece, kind of press it in here. That might give us some more natural flowing curls. Yeah, there we go. Not bad. Yeah, looks pretty good. Nice. I like that. And like you can see, some of the paint actually came off from here. Yeah, little bits and pieces, but it's not entirely noticeable unless you look like very, 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 very close up. But that's what we're gonna do. Put the Toni head up here out of the way. Okay. Alright, so it's gonna be about right there. Okay. Good. Push that down. Good stuff. And remember, they're supposed to be thin straps, so it's alright if it looks a little too thin. I can just fix it later. There we go. So there you see, stretching down, almost there. Just kind of push it down with the thumb. There we go. And if it looks a little bit warped, that's okay, because what I'm going to do is come back with my X-Acto knife, and we can straighten it out. So we can go in with the X-Acto, push it all straight together. I don't know if my camera is capturing that. Yep, it is. Okay. So yeah, we just push it all together. It looks pretty good. All right, let's do the other side now. Another little clump here. Turned out pretty straight, unlike Toni. Come on, you gotta admit, that was a good joke. Let's see. Okay, got that. Alright, so we got our shoulder straps. Now we need to do the bra, or the top part, whatever you want to call it. So what I'm going to do here is actually use the edge of my X-Acto knife and just kind of map out where I'm going with this. So we're going to map out from there to there, and from there to there. Simple enough. Alright. Cool. So now we have the outline for the top. So I'm just going to pat that down, press it in. I'm going to take my finger and kind of smooth it out, so it'll kind of blend into this area here. It'll make it easier for me to paint later on. It's actually funny. Originally, when I was making this custom, I was going to not paint it, but I was going to use decals and just do a leopard print decal. I still have the decals sitting somewhere. I just, at the last moment, decided to paint just because I thought the paint would come out better than the decals, and boy was I right, because I practiced doing the decals on like a dummy figure, and it did not look good. It looked very warped, and the pattern looked very faded. We have, so we've got this. We've got the boots separated. We've got Mariah. We've got the legs separated. We've got our hair remolded. We've got our belt, our fur, all that stuff. Am I missing anything? Oh, right. this may be another tiny bit that we need to do with the Dremel, but on the gear here for Mariah, if you're noticing something at the top, this heart down here also needs to be Dremeled off real quick. So, shouldn't take more than a couple seconds. There we go. And just like that, no more heart. Alrighty, everybody, welcome back. It's been a little while, and the paint has now, or not the paint, but the epoxy has dried. So what we're going to do next here is I'm going to take this skin tone paint that I have, and we're going to paint over these little bits and pieces here on the shoulders and on the back to cover that up. So I'm just going to pour a little bit in here. There we go. This is going to be kind of the painting heavy portion of this video. So we're just going to go ahead and paint over that. There we go. And I'm kind of gonna cover up this entire shoulder piece right here just so it blends a little bit better. And I'll probably have to end up doing a couple of layers of this just to make sure it blends properly. There we go. All right. Okay. See, part of me is like, I have to make sure this is in frame, but also part of me is so used to painting stuff up close so that way the detail is correct. So this is a little difficult for me. And I also have white paint. We're going to have to end up using that too, especially for these lines on the back here. Instead of being blue and pink, they have to be all white. So we're going to have to repaint that. All the gear is pretty much going to have to be repainted white. Same thing with like the legs here. And then with the Toni, we're also going to do a layer of white before we do all the leopard print stuff. I just think doing a layer of white will do it better for the leopard print to show through. So let me finish up painting this here. Like I said, this will probably be done in a couple different layers. So just a little bit. This will probably be another one of those like multi-layered parts that we have to do. Alrighty, you guys, and we are back after letting some paint dry. I didn't do a crazy amount. I just kind of went over everything with a base of white paint. So there are all the Toni Storm parts. The Mariah is pretty much complete. As you can see, we went over with a couple layers of the white paint, and the paint on the shoulders is now dried. So Mariah, we're kind of putting that on the back burner for right now. We're kind of focusing on Toni. So I have this mixture of like brownish paints that we're going to use to create this leopard print base. I kind of had to guess because I don't remember what colors I used to make this. So we're going to use this sort of, I'm going to call it caramel colored, because I don't want anyone watching this to barf thinking of any other type of color that may be consistent with this type of color. So we're going to go ahead and paint a base layer of that. I got my parts here held up by pliers that are themselves held together with rubber bands. So we're going to go in here and start painting, just barely getting in. And that's why I want to do it with like a layer of white first, just so this coloring fits better. And if after this layer dries and it doesn't look exactly correct, at least that means I can go back with some lighter colors and kind of mix this together. So this is just the first layer. Honestly, I'm trying to remember if I used like one of my skin tone colors to like paint in this outfit, because it was a while ago. I can't remember if I actually like mixed any paints to get this color correct. Alright, and we're back. So we got this covered. So at the moment, it doesn't look like it's the exact right color, but that's alright. I'm going to wait for this to dry, and I'm going to mess around with a couple different colors and see what we can get that can get closer to this, because I don't remember what color I used specifically. So I'll update you guys here in a minute. So I'll show you what we have done. So that is going to be the torso. And I've added in a couple more little bits of black here and there. I might touch it up a little bit more later on, depending. But yeah, that's pretty much what we've got going for the top there. Oh, I also painted up the boots. So pretty basic paint job. Just repainted the laces and everything. And then used some heat to heat up the boots to get them back on the legs. So those are done. And then we have the crotch piece here all printed out. And then the stomach piece here, and then I added a little hidden message there in the torso. So I thought that'd be funny to do. So while that stuff is drying, what we're going to do is take our Toni. I've got some Scotch tape here, and we are actually going to mold the wrist tape slash hand tape to this. So that's what we're going to do while the black is drying. So let me move this out of the way. So, like I had said before, I was contemplating whether or not I wanted to paint on the wrist tape or use epoxy sculpt, and I ended up using the Scotch tape method, and it turned out really well. So that's what we're going to replicate here. So what I need to do is cut up the Scotch tape into very small strips. Not just in length, but in width. So, I'm going to take this here, cut this up. That's one. And get another one here. And I'll show you exactly what I did. So, boom. Get that there, get that there. Okay, so. Gonna take this around. Let me double check here how far I went. Okay, so kind of to the edge of the tattoo there. That's how far I went. Okay, so take it there. Press down there. And then just take it around. There we go. All right, push that down a little bit. Bring it around, bring it around, bring it around, bring it around. And it's okay if it doesn't cover up all of the arm. We don't really want to go all the way up just because obviously we need this arm peg exposed so we can pop in and out hands. So press that down there. And that's all right if the Scotch tape doesn't hold that well, because we're going to cover it in paint and Mod Podge, and that'll help hold it down. So we're going to do the same thing here. Boom. Press and hold. Pull it down as we go. Boom, 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 boom. That'll hold that. Alright, I need a couple more strips here for the hand parts. Hold on. So for the hands, we're going to do the exact same thing. And you'll notice, for the hands, I have it interweaving through the fingers as well. Well, the thumb, at least. Loop-de-loop. Over, under. Doesn't have to look exact. There we go. Okay. There we are. Okay. Alright, so there's that part. And then take this part. Loop around there. Trying to do this on camera. It's easier said than done. There we go. Alright, press that in. So we got that part going. There we go. And it's only really like one layer on the hand. So there we go. We got that. Let's do the other side. And doing a layer of like Mod Podge and paint on top of it will help hide some of the weirder effects or defects. So, okay, so that's the palm. I need one more strip to go around. Actually, I'm going to see if I can't do a really long strip. And then I can cut it off whenever I need it. Okay. Really long strip. Boom. Okay. And this is what we'll use to go around the thumb area down here. Perfecto. Okay, so we'll take this up and around. Boom. Take that up and around again. And alright, cool. So we got the hands there taped up. There's another set of hands that are kind of closed fists. I'm going to do the same thing to that. And then afterwards, I'm going to hit it with a layer of white paint and Mod Podge. While that's all drying, we're going to do this next step, which is going to be, I'm going to take one of these little shoulder fur pads that was on the original Mariah figure. And like I showed before, we're going to make it into this little side sash fur thing. So I just need to cut it up a little bit, and then I'm going to use some Loctite super glue, and we're going to glue it onto the side here. So I'm going to try and cut this up to be as accurate as possible. Yep. Without the figure falling over. Nope. That's going to be easier said than done. Okay, so we're going to use that. There we go. All right. So, let's see here. So this needs to be flattened out. Okay, so what am I doing? Okay, there we go. So, straighten this out. That needs to be flattened out. Cut out a couple little fur bits right there. Flatten that end out. Doesn't need to be crazy long or big. There we go. Okay. So cut that out. Cut that out. Okay. Good. A little bit more there. Now we're getting the shape. And oh, there we go. Okay. So that's our basic shape right there. That looks pretty good. And then it has these little nubs on the inside. I'm going to try and cut those off too, just because I want this to sit flat and flush. It's a good thing about these being brand new scissors. They're like super sharp. So let's see here. So a tiny bit of Loctite. Not too much. There we go. Okay, so this stuff's going to harden very quickly. So we're going to take it, press it on. There we go. Okay. So there's a little bit of overhang like right here and kind of in the back, but that's okay. I can use the scissors to cut it up while it's on here. So I'm just going to press my hand against that. There we go. Good. There we are. And then same thing on the back here. Kind of trim this little end off right there. All right. And there we have it. Our little side sash of fur. I don't know why she does that, but it's a unique look. And there you can see the base of Mariah May. So this is kind of like before we get all the little silver dots all over it. So this is pre-blood Mariah May. This is post-blood Mariah May. So we're getting closer to the final results with our Mariahs. Toni is going to need a little bit extra work. But we have the fur on there. The Toni is drying on the paint. So we will have to come back once that is done. And then I'll show you guys what I'm going to do for the rest of the design. Alright, you guys, so we are on to one of our last steps here, and as you can see, I remembered that I have actually a head mount for my camera, or I guess for my phone. Now, my head hurts right now because I think this sort of head mount is meant for like a GoPro or something, not a heavy-ass phone that I have attached to my forehead, but it's the best way I can think of to show you guys me doing the painting steps, which we are going to do. The Toni Storm is pretty much done, so we are moving on to one of the last working steps here, which is to replicate all these little silver dots here on the Mariah May figure, and then that will be pretty much done. So we're going to go in here. I got my silver paint here, and to do the dots, I'm just going to put some silver paint in here. I really hope this is capturing, otherwise this is going to be very annoying. But yeah, I got my silver paint here, and I got my toothpick. I'm just going to dab the toothpick in and go in and do a couple dots here. I'm going to try and keep the same pattern here, so as you can see, it's like a couple here around the rim, and then just follow the pattern going inward. So we're going to try that and see how this goes. Alright, so dab that. Do these two just to start out and have a good starting point. There we go. Alright, so I need, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 up to there. Okay, so that'll be, that'll be the 7th right there. And right there. Okay. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6 and 7. Okay, so we have our outline for right there, and I think it was a similar number here. So hold on, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Okay, so where does that one end? Okay, so that one's pretty much right next to it. All right, so do this one here. 1, 2, 3. Move the arm out of the way here so you can watch. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay, so we'll do 8 then. All right, so there is our top, pretty much done. I can't remember, was there any? No, I don't think there was any silver dots around the rim of it, so I think we're fine there. So next we're going to do the trunks down here. So these ones are going to be a little bit more difficult to do. Then we have to do around the belt of it as well. So actually I'm going to do the belt first. So that one we just got to do tiny dots all the way around. Easy peasy, no problem. This silver paint works really freaking good. Okay, there we go. And I think I actually did this belt part last on the first time I did this, which is why it came out a little weird. But that's okay, accidents happen. We just correct them the second time around, shall we? Boom, 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 and boom. Last one, there we go. All right, sweet. Looking good, looking real good. Okay, so for this, on the crotch area, we need this little triangle down here. That's going to be our base. So it goes 1, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay. So let's get this party going. So 1, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, and 1. Oh, running out there. And 1, 2, 3, 4. There we go. All right, cool. So there's that. Now we've got one right there. One right there. And one right there. I might have to make this a little bit larger. Okay. And then, yeah, just do a couple on each side. Really, I shouldn't even have to do the one part of the armband that's facing away, but I'm a stickler for detail, so there we go. You have no idea how much match footage I combed through to find out the pattern for all these stones and everything. It took a while. I'll just say that. It took a while. But there we have it. All of our dots in place. Now, we just have to wait for this baby to dry. Actually, while we're waiting for the paint to dry, I just remembered there's one more piece that we can do while we're waiting for that to dry. We need to put on these little cloth, little ribbons or bands or whatever right here. So, in order to do that, I have this little piece of like silk black fabric that I use. It's very stretchy too. So I'm going to cut some tiny strands using my skizzers here. And they don't need to be that long. I'm going to try and get them to measure the same length. There we go. So about right there. And then about right there. All right. And you'll notice on here, it's two little bands. So the way I'm going to do it, I'm going to make a cut about halfway up. So there'll still be two bands on each, but they'll still be stuck together. So we're going to go in here and just cut right about there. There you go. See what I mean? So 2 bands, but they're attached, if that makes sense. And then there we go. Do it with this one as well. Actually, I need to straighten out that top. There we go. Now we cut to the middle. Perfect. And we're going to take our figure here. Make sure my hand didn't accidentally smear any of that silver paint. And then we want to attach him right there at the leg. So I'm going to take my Loctite. Actually, I need my tweezers here, just so I don't get super glue or Loctite on my fingers. Okay. So, and also I need to keep track of this. That's the problem of working on a black desk. If you're working with anything that's black fabric like this, you lose track of it quickly. Okay, so little dab right there like so. Perfect. Okay, move quickly, move quickly, move quickly. Okay. And then, there we go. Move that into place. Come on. Gotta make sure it's straight down, not curved off to the side or anything. Come on. Come on. Work with me here. There we go. Okay. Cool. So we got that on. I'm going to trim this off just a little bit. There we go. Looks a little bit too bulky. Yeah, let it hold for a second. There we go. Okay. Trim this off. Yeah, this one on the end here just looks a little bit too thick for my liking. Right on, baby. There we go. All right, so we got our ribbons on. Let's go. All right, now we can wait for all the little silver paint to dry. Alrighty, you guys, and we are pretty much done with the figures. Look at that. These turned out awesome. I'm also displaying them at the moment with the little glass shard hands. And the way I did this, I took some plastic packaging from one of these like little containers of what was this one? Skittles or M&Ms or whatever. And I took some green paint and I painted them up. Then after that, I snipped it up into tiny little pieces, put a dab of Loctite on both of these hands, and then just kind of pressed it into all of the little bits just to see what else would get on the hands. There you can see. And then I took the green paint and kind of just dabbed little bits just to look like even tinier shards. So this turned out really good. I actually don't even have these hands made for my 2-pack that's up there. So this is actually going to be an exclusive thing that goes to the soon-to-be owner of this 2-pack. But I think this is really cool to show it off like this. This is like the before blood, and then we have the after. Actually, hold on a second. I know they had the gloved glass hands, like kind of when Toni was already bloodied, but you know. So we have Bloody Mariah, and we have Bloody Toni. And obviously you can see the paint is different on the outfits when it comes to the leopard print, but you know, it's obvious I was never going to get 100% like perfect like comparison to the first time that I did it. But I still think it turned out really well. If I can get Mariah to stand up here. Look at that. So we have before blood, after blood, the before and after. This looks awesome. I'm really proud with how this came out. I was very nervous to remake this, but I think it turned out really good. But we're not entirely done yet because we need to get these ladies looking like these ladies. So you know what that means. Time to bust out the red paint. We are down to our final steps, and I've kind of already tested some of the paint here on the gloves. So we got bloody gloves and bloody hands right here, and it's looking pretty good. We've got our mixture of blood paint that I've got here, and I've got Mod Podge gloss. This stuff is what I use on top of this to give it that shiny red feeling, as if it's like fresh blood, and it makes it look a little bit more realistic. That, and I have the blood paint here with a little bit of black next to it, just to give it a little extra shading and coloring wherever we need to. It's also mixed in with water, so it runs a little bit, so it gives it an extra layer of realism. But we're gonna start off here with Toni Storm, and I've got my thin-tipped paintbrush. So what I'm gonna do here is I need that effect of the blood dripping down. So we're going to do it from her chin up. There we go. And give it a couple layers here, drenching down. Good. And it doesn't, that's the perfect thing with blood, is that it doesn't have to look perfect. It can look a little messy. It can look runny. It can look weird. Because it is blood, it is a naturally drippy liquid. So we're going to do that there. Good. Couple layers here and there. Alright. I kind of have to turn it towards me as well. I tried to do the head thing again with like my head strap for my camera, and it was not working well. It kept slipping and sliding, and like the camera was coming in and out of focus, so I was just like, you know what, screw it, we're going back to this. Okay, so that's enough for the neck part. It kind of looks like she got fucking cut in the neck already. Okay, so now we're going to go here, do the same sort of thing right here. Just keep it out of the eyes. Just kind of got like a Stranger Things sort of bleeding eyes look going on here. I'm sure it's been done in other media too, but that's just the one thing that came to mind because Stranger Things just ended recently. Okay, and I'm also like looking over at this so I can like try and match the look of this, so... Go over here. I can also see some parts where like little bits of white paint got left behind, but that's okay, because that means we can take the red paint and use it to cover that up, baby. Easy peasy. Okay, so go into the bridge of the nose here. Just watch the eyes. Good. Good, 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 good. And I've got a couple different methods as to what I'm going to do to make this work. I'm not just going to use the paintbrush here. This is just a first draft, you know? There we go. Ooh, bloody, bloody, bloody. Lots of blood. Mainly for the hair. I'm going to take the paper towel clump it into the red paint right there, and then just dab throughout the hair right here. And just kind of brush it around. There we go. Good. Put some on the back too. Screw it, why not? There we go. Sure she got blood on her back at some point. Couple extra little dabs right there. Maybe a little on the shoulder right there. This is where we get a little experimental. Free reign. Yeah, there we go. Nice. This is where it looks more unique. So there we go. A little bit more here. Brush strokes with the paper towel. Sorry I can't show it to you while I do it. There we go. A little bit more on the hair up there. Yes! Now she's looking like a fucking scream queen. But I don't have that much footage time left on my phone. It is running out of storage space, so I need to do this in one go. Okay, so there's Toni and Toni. I need to keep track of which one is going to which customer. I can tell with the Tonis by the leopard print. This one is the first one that I made. This one is the second. The Mariah is going to be a little bit more difficult because they look so fucking similar. So I might have to keep the Mariah like off to the side here after this. I don't know. I'm going to have to find a way to tell them apart. But we need to get into painting the Mariah. So I have the head off of the Mariah right now because I need to do the more intricate areas here. Like with her chest here, she has these very tiny blood splatters right here. So what I'm going to do for that is a little bit of blood splattering. So I'm going to put a little bit of red paint on the brush strokes here and then just flick it on. And hopefully this will work. So, I'm going to take this, dab it in the red paint, move this out of the way, get this to stand up straight, and then we're just going to flick it on. Is that working? No, it is not. Okay. Maybe I need more water? Ugh. More water will work, perhaps? No, that's not working either. Oh, there it is. Okay. It's working a little bit. For some reason, it's not wanting to work this time around. That's alright, though. I have another method we can try. Just gonna dab it like so. Yeah, there we go. That works. Perfect. Just using the tips of the brush strokes there. That's what we want. There we go. Alright, that's working. Alright, gonna switch back to this paintbrush now. Do a couple bits and pieces up here. Good. Up here on the shoulder. Good. And on this one, we're gonna use the fabric, or the tissue paper here, a lot more than we did on the Toni. So once again, boom, get that in. And the white gear with this blood is going to look awesome. So dab that on there. Not too much. It wasn't a total bloodbath, but it was pretty bloody. Okay, a little bit there on the torso. Good. Up, down there on the arms. A little bit on the forearms. On the back, definitely on the back. There we go. Back here. No red will be untouched on this. Even gonna get a little bit here on her fur patch on the side. Nice and stained red. Blood red. Gonna get a little bit there on the legs as well. I might have to get a new piece of paper here as well. On the shoe. And then immediately like wipe it with the hand. Or a finger. Just to get it like a smear or a stain almost. There we go. Good. Smear that. There we go. I don't know if it's accurate. I don't remember if she had these little laces on the back here, but that's alright. You're going to be looking at the figure mostly from the front anyway, so. We're going to go in with our layer of paint. Get the forehead going here. Yeah. Lay it on thick. There we go. And then around the sides of the eyes. Drip it around, maybe right there on the nose. May look a little thick here, but that's alright. I'll go back through and even out some of the areas that may be looking a little bit less like blood and a little bit more like ketchup. Okay. Yes. I would like to get some actual, like, blood paint from, like, Citadel paints or whatever this year. This is just a mixture of, like, reds and browns, actually. So I need to invest in some Citadel paints. I hear about it all the time. Like, don't use Apple Barrel, use Citadel. I'm like, yeah, but Citadel's kind of expensive. Alright. Perfect. Alrighty. They are coming along. I am going to stop here, go through with a couple more layers, and then I will show you all the end result. Alright, so moving on, the figures are pretty much done. The paint on those is drying. This is my finished one. So now that the figures themselves are finished, we need to move on to the packaging. Now, for the packaging for mine, obviously I had some printed out sheets of paper that I went into Photoshop and did all the background work for. I got an image of Toni Storm in like a post-match interview where she was like kissing her lips and like blowing a kiss goodbye to Mariah May, and then the other one was a photo from Mariah May's Instagram that I took, photoshopped them onto the background with an image like of the end shot from the end of the matchup, and then on the back, hold on a second. On the back is just the image of Toni holding the high heel and Mariah begging her not to hit her with it, even though she definitely is going to. Now, in the process of making this new set, oh, Mariah fell over, I had an idea, and I'm thinking of adding it to my box as well. And actually, it is already on the box. The sides, at first, I didn't have any postage on, but I had an idea to make this even better because the person that I'm giving this second one to is a very big fan of Mariah May and Toni Storm's story, so I did something a little extra for the sides of the box, which I've also added onto my box, but I do not want to spoil what that is until it is all finished. I will, however, spoil what is going to be on the back. Now, I'm going to show you all right here. This is the extra one of these boxes that I have. I don't know what size protector these are. I got this from Ringside Collectibles, and on the bottom of mine, at least on this one, it says Stone Cold. So if that gives you guys any idea of what to get. But anyways, yeah, I got this from Ringside Collectibles. I don't know what size this is. It's like a freaking full-size thing. And there you can see the full art. I guess I should have shown this box so you guys can see the full art. But yeah, just did a little bit of Photoshop work there. Nothing really at the bottom just because you're not really going to see this part. It's going to be blocked by that table. But yeah, if you guys know what size box protector this is, then you guys can go ahead and get that. But what I'm going to do here is I'm going to take and glue on these sheets of paper. Now, I showed you the photo that was on the back of my box, but I've done a little bit of a modification, and I'm going to fix this on my box too, because after I did this, I realized this makes it look even cooler. So I put a little synopsis for this match on top of this photo. So now the box on the back will say, "It was a bloody massacre in Los Angeles as timeless Toni Storm defended her AEW Women's World Championship. And in the end, the woman from hell, Mariah May, found out what happens when you try to kill God." I think that works really well. I wrote that myself, by the way, motherfuckers. I did not use ChatGPT. Fuck AI. But I wrote that myself, and I think it turned out really well. I even used the little fancy font right here. But yeah, I think that looks really good. So I made 2 of them. I'm going to put one on the back of my box, because like I said, I think that looks really good. And then we're going to put the other one on this other box. So the way I'm going to do this is I am going to first... Hold on. Like I said, don't want to spoil what's on the sides, but I am going to first glue this paper to one of these clear sheets. Now, these are blank stencil sheets. I got a pack of these off of Amazon, and they're literally just these like slabs of like plastic sheets. Like if you're in your late 20s like me, one of your teachers in high school or middle school may have used these for the overhead projector. If you don't know what an overhead projector is, Google it, motherfuckers. But I'm going to glue one of the sheets onto this, cut this out, and then I'm going to glue it to the back of the box. So that's what we're going to do for this. So I need to move this out of the way. Move this one out of the way. I'll do mine later. I'm just showing you guys this one for what I'm doing with this. So we've got our one sheet here. Let me fix the tripod here so you guys can watch this. So we've got one sheet here. Roll up my sleeves. So when I did this the first time, I used hot glue, but I currently have my space heater running, and I can't have a space heater running and a hot glue gun running. I don't think that is safe. So for this, we're going to try and use some Loctite. And I'm just going to do the corners. Boom, 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 boom. All right. So just a tiny bit here at the corners. Boom. 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 And boom. All right. Flip it over real quick. Push it down nice and flat. Push it out. Nice and flat. There we go. Okay, so it's been a little bit of time. I actually glued mine at the same time, so that is glued on there. That is what it's going to look like. So glued on there with the Loctite. So we're going to take that. This one's mine, so I'm going to set that one off to the side. If I do, for some reason, ruin this one, then we'll just use the other one for the customer's box. I would rather have the one for my box ruined and me have to do it later rather than ruining the one that's supposed to go to a customer. Anyways, take my scissors and gently cut this out of all the plastic. Now that's cut out nice and clean. Cool. All right, so where's the box? Oh, here's the box. All right, so next step. Glue it onto here. Now, I'm not going to use this Loctite. I'm going to use this Loctite. Well, actually, flexible adhesive, transparent. I don't know how that's going to turn out. Actually, I changed my mind. We're going back to professional liquid. I don't trust that as a good glue. I may be wrong. It may have been fine, but like I said, I don't trust it. So there you see, like I said, shaped it out pretty perfectly. It sits in there pretty firm, just like that. But we're going to add the glue as well, just to make sure that it stays fit. And I could trim this just a tiny bit more, but I don't want the lettering to get cut off, and I've already cut off too much of the shoe. As you can see on the image on my box, I have the shoe in frame, whereas here it's just kind of cut off, so I don't want to cut off more than I already have. So we've got that. We're gonna glue, just kind of go willy-nilly here on the side, or on the back with the glue. I was going to say hot glue, but just with the glue. So we'll do a layer up here at the top, and a layer down here towards the bottom. Because I know this glue is going to bleed through the paper. I can kind of already tell it will. But there we go. Slide that sucker in there. Push down nice and firm. There we go. All right, so we got the back. Perfect. Yes. All right. So that is what we did for the back of the packaging. And look at that. Even with that extra protective layering, it looks like it's actually part of the packaging. That's the look I'm going for. So now we have the back, we have the front, and then we have the sides. And the sides, like I said, I will show you later, when pretty much for the grand reveal of everything. But no, make no mistake, this is the side paneling. I'm very proud of this idea. I think it turned out really well. All right, and we're back with some more progress. What we're going to do now is kind of create a couple of the props that we're going to be using for this. Now, I said that I ordered some stuff. Spoiler alert, one of the things that I ordered in the mail was a black table. However, when I was in my storage area looking for some parts for a different custom, lo and behold, I come upon an extra black table that I had. I did not know that I had this. So I guess I just have a replacement black table for the one that we're going to use for this. So yeah, the black table that I have here in my box is literally just one of these like Mattel black tables. I bought this at my local action figure shop. They have like a whole bucket of wrestling figure accessories. This was $5. Pretty good price. I think you can get maybe like one of the more modern tables from Ringside Collectibles for like $3 or $4, but I mean, you know, I like to support the local business, so I'll take it. Plus, I like that it breaks more into 2 pieces. I was about to use one that broke off into 3 pieces, but I think 2 works better. It's a lot easier to keep track of. And for the purposes of this next step, it's going to be a lot easier, because we have to take this, and I printed out the Hollywood ending logo. I made this myself, so it's not entirely accurate to the match. Like, I had to finagle some ways to do like the black and white on here, and then like find a font that fit close enough to this. But I printed this off onto some sticker paper, so I'm gonna peel off the back and then basically put it onto the table. We're gonna trim off the sides here so that it fits properly. Along with that, since I didn't want to waste an entire sheet of sticker paper, I also printed off this, which is the poster that they used in the match. Again, I had to basically create this myself, find this original photo, then find font that fit this properly, and then match it all up. So I did that on my own, and on top of all that, since, like I said, I had extra sticker paper, I also made this little 1 of 2 sticker, like how they have the Chase figures and 1 of 1 and all that stuff. Well, since this is my custom, I have 1 of 2, and then the customer is going to have 2 of 2, because there's only ever going to be 2 of these, because I am not doing all this work again. So, yeah, the custom box is going to get this one that says 2 of 2 on a little film marker, and then on top of that, I printed off some other stickers, the Mariah entrance logo, which I think is very, very clean. I don't know about you guys, but I think that logo looks really cool. And then a couple of Toni Storm ones, which apparently there's a sold on AEW shop, but I just quickly printed them off here just to use up some of the paper. You know, it is what it is. But yeah, I'm going to do this first because this is going to be easy. So this is also on sticker paper, and I have a box from my cans of Dr. Pepper. So I'm just going to take some of this cardboard and then just tape it down to that. And then that'll be the end of that, just so the paper has a little bit more stability. So there we go. So yeah, if the poster smells a little bit like Diet Dr. Pepper, you'll know why. And I'm going to do it on this side, so that way the other side of the paper is literally just the poster. So just got to peel this off here on the back. Nice and easy. Make sure there are no bubbles. Good stuff. All right. Smooth that out, and then we can just cut it out. There we are. This takes me back when I was a young lad making toys out of paper, and I would make play sets out of cardboard. That's no joke, though. I would actually do that. If I ever get a chance, I'll tell the full story someday. But yeah, I used to make paper toys and cardboard play sets. And this skill has come in handy many a times over the years, just like today. Alright, perfect. So there we have the poster. And I have one, oh shit, I threw it. And I have one of these posters in my set too, and I think it's a really good accessory, which is why I'm going to add it into this one. I can throw that away. Alright, so first off, I need to take these feet off. How do I just pop them out like that? Okay, there we go. I don't normally take these off. I didn't do it with the last one. This one I didn't make with sticker paper. I just used like a lot of Mod Podge to get it to stick. So if this works out even better, I might do the same method with mine and fix it up. So, see, I guess there's some benefits to doing a project again after you've already done it. You get to find ways to improve it from the last time. Experimentation. Alright, so there we go. Find the corner. It's very hard to do this considering I just trimmed my fingernails. Alright, there we go. Oh, alright, so there we go. Peel off that backing. There we are. Okay. Careful. I want to make sure I get the majority of it on here. There we go. I had like 3 different sizes. So there we go, there's that. So now I just need to go around and trim off all this. And I have my X-Acto knife. I'm going to try and do it with the X-Acto knife because the blade is brand new. So it should be easy to cut off here. Oh, shit. Yeah, I just trimmed off a little bit of the actual table. Oh well. Okay. There we go, there's that. Alright, nice. Yeah, I just don't want to get off a lot of the lettering. That's my main focus here. There we go. Yeah. And then afterwards, I'm going to try and get it to break by taking the X-Acto knife and like going through and finding like the grooves here. I don't know exactly how that's going to go. So this could go very good or very bad, and I may have to try this again. But we'll see. Okay. Either that or, I don't know, maybe I'll just keep it as one solid piece. Because if you watch the match, like when they do the finishing spot and they do the pile driver or the Storm Zero through the table doesn't actually snap in half. The table stays together. The feet just kind of break out underneath it. But I don't know how much the customer is going to want to take stuff out of the box and, like, you know, recreate the match and all this sort of stuff. They might just keep it as, like, a piece in the box, but I am leaving that completely up to them. Once it's sold and off to them, they can frickin' set it on fire and make a TikTok out of it for all I care. Alright, so there's the table, nice and clean, looking pretty good. So, like I said, now I need to find the grooves here on the table break feature. Don't know how exactly I'm going to do that. Unless I, like, press into it, maybe? I don't know. Well, let's put the legs back on and see how we're looking here. Because, yeah, that looks clean. That looks very clean. And then set it up like that. Oh, through the table! And then, yeah, it just kind of collapses like that instead of, like, breaking through straight down. I like the look of that. That looks good. Plus, it's supposed to be, like, the center signage in the box, so maybe they'd want to keep it pristine. I don't know. I'm going to message the customer right now and see what they want. And if they do want it breakable, I'll figure out how to do that. If they don't, perfect. So we'll see what happens. All right, so I just got back with the customer, and they said they want the logo to stay together, so we do not have to cut out anything, so thank you to the customer for making this a hell of a lot easier. So, the table accessory is done, we have this little poster accessory that is done, we have our free stickers that are going to be done, we have this sticker, which I guess I can put on the box. Let's see, the figures are done, most of the signage on the box is done, there's only just a couple other little teeny tiny accessories that we need to throw in here, and then we can do the final reveal, and I am so excited for you all to see this! And it is a couple days later, and I just got in the mail my order from Figures Toy Company, or FTC, to get some of the accessories. And here's that black table that I ordered, which is the exact same as the one that I already had that I used for the project. So this is just kind of a replacement for that. But then we have this collection of buckets here, and this will be for our broken glass accessories. However, I don't really like the obvious plastic look of these, so to fix that, I have my can of metallic silver spray paint that I've used on some projects in the past. I'm going to take all these outside in a nice fumigated area, and I am going to give them a little spray, give them a nice little metallic finish, and then we will move on to the next part. Alrighty, you guys, and we're back after a little spray paint here on the silver. There you can see, nice and shiny, a little bit more realistic, better to my liking. So what we're going to do next is we have two buckets here that I've spray painted, and I have a bunch of this like little plastic paper here that I've painted with metallic green and cut it up into these little tiny pieces to imitate broken glass. So I'm going to take a little bit from each, or take a little bit from this pile to put in each bucket. I have my hot glue gun, so I'm just going to squirt a little bit of hot glue into each of these buckets, just sprinkle a little bit in there, and let it harden. And I'm going to do it to these two buckets, and then I'm going to do it to two other ones, so that way I can have it for my set of customs for this. So let me get my hot glue gun here. I don't know if it'll reach to where it can... Oh, I guess it will. Alright, cool. So let me tilt this up just a little bit so you guys can watch this part. The magic of a hot glue gun. Oop. There we go. Not too much. There we go. And then a little bit in there too. Oh my god, that is smoking. Holy shit. Okay. There we go. Just a little bit in there. There we go. I'll probably need to grab like a toothpick or something to kind of push this down into it so it makes sure that it sticks. Okay, so I got a toothpick here. Oop, and there's a strand of glue. It's blocking it. Okay, can you see that? All right, just gonna push that in there. There we go. Get it all in there. Oh, and it's getting stuck to the toothpick. No! That's not what I wanted to happen! Okay, there we go. All right. There we are. And then let me get another glue stick in here. Oh, there we go. Okay. I didn't realize that one was starting to get a little bit too thin. Or low to the end, I should say. Camera tripod is acting up here. Okay, so put this in here. There we go. Put a little bit more in there. There we go. Keep it all stuck together here. There we are. Perfect. All right. So there are our buckets of broken glass. So we'll leave those off to the side to dry, or I guess cool off, I should say. And we're going to do 2 more here. These ones just don't have the handles on them yet. So I'm going to put a little bit more in here. And then the rest of this that I don't use to go into the buckets, I'm going to use for my set of figures, because I never did the gloved fists of glass, so I'm probably going to do that for my set as well. So I'm going to leave this off here on the shelf. And then I guess these bits I can probably just put off to the side in case I ever need them for a different custom in the future. Who knows? You never know when you'll need broken glass shavings, I guess. So put a little bit more hot glue in there. A little bit more hot glue in there. Just to make sure none of this falls out later on. Alright, and then, like I said, we'll leave those out to dry, and then after that, honestly, I think that was kind of the last working step. I think we are finally time for the grand reveal. Let me go over some stuff and see if it is now time to show you guys the end result. Whew. Alrighty, ladies and gentlemen, the time has come, finally, to put this set together. You've seen me go from start to finish on the custom. Actually, crazy enough, let's actually do like a little side-by-side comparison here. So just for the sake of the video, just to kind of see the end results here, let's see. So we started out on our Toni Storm. We started out with this Toni Storm, and we made it into this Toni Storm, which is a pretty drastic difference, which is insane to see. Then Mariah May, we started with this Mariah May, with all the shoulder fluff and all that stuff, and then we turned that into this Mariah May. Once again, pretty crazy difference. These are like pretty much 2 completely different figures now, and they look awesome in their own ways. But we're gonna put these figures away. We don't need those. I'll probably use those for another custom at a later date. I also got an extra women's championship. Speaking of which, I did kind of bloody up this women's championship. We'll use that for this set here. So it is time to put the box together. We have all of our accessories. However, I am going to do something real quick. So I have these little Ziploc baggies with different hands on here. So I got one for Mariah and one for Toni. I want this to be a little different displayed in the packaging. Now, granted, when the customer gets this, they can display this however they want, but I am going to display this one with the glass fists in, because I think that is a cool new little inclusion for this set. So I'm going to pop that one in there, and I'm going to probably pose it with this hand down and this fist up. I think that looks cool. So that'll be our pose for Toni in her thing, and then we'll put the hands back in here for this. Boom, boom, boom. And then Mariah, I think I might have her with the glass fist as well. Once again, just for a different look. And I do need to do these glass fists for my package, for my custom pack, because I think they turned out really good. And like I said, I still have some extra green painted plastic, so I can definitely do it. There we go. Yes. So now we have shoot, sorry. So now we have our Toni and Mariah with their glass fists. So that's kind of how they'll be displayed in the packaging, at least when I send it off, and then the customer can fix it however they want. So let's see here. Toni and Mariah, the hands. There we go. And then we have the Die Mariah Die poster. We have the custom table. We got the figures. And we've got the bloody shoe. The bloody shoe, which looks perfect, in my opinion. And then we've got some bubble wrap here. We're going to use that to kind of hold everything in place. I did the same thing with my set of figures. So let's go ahead and set up this box here. So we're going to pop this open from the top. Going to put this in first. Then we're going to put in the table. And the table is going to act as our front little thing. So we want to lay it down just like that. You want the legs to be facing up too, because that'll kind of keep everything more stable. And then we want to add the little packets here with our hands and all that. And we're going to put Mariah in first. There we go. Good. Then we want Toni right there. Then we want to put in the bubble wrap. So the way I put in the bubble wrap, I kind of folded it up right there, just like that, and it'll cover enough space. So one of the last working steps we need to do, we need to make the women's championship hang right about here, and then we need to put the heel somewhere right here so it displays nice. So to do that, I'm going to take a little bit of this. It's like a epoxy, or not epoxy, but it's tack putty. If you've ever used this before, it's kind of like Play-Doh. It just helps you hang things, but I only used a little bit of it. It comes off very easily, but I use tack putty for stuff like this. So I'm going to put a little bit on the back of the championship right here, back of the championship right here. Then we're going to hang it kind of about, oh, hold on, so you can see this. Kind of about right there. So press that in there. And then press that in right there. Perfect. So we've got our title belt hanging. And then we're going to put the shoe right below that, because the shoe was kind of a big part of this scene as well, along with the title. There's the rest of my tack putty. And the shoe, just again, put a little bit on the back right here. And then we press it right there. Yes. So now we have the shoe and the title hanging there. And then we will take our plastic, fold it up like so, press it in. Might need to readjust it. There we go. Close it up. Well, actually, there we go. I don't want it to be peeking over too much to distract from the figures. All right, close up the box. All right, let me get a grand reveal shot here of the finished product. Ta-da! Look at that. Look at that beauty. Oh yeah, that is a very nice shot. The shoe is kind of hidden right there. Maybe I'll move the title and the belt up a little bit. But yes. Yes, indeed. The table acts as a nice little logo right there for the box. Oh my god, beautiful. Okay, so we have the front of the box. You've seen the back of the box. So this was the added little bit that I wanted to do on the sides of it. I don't know if I can get my tripod up. There we go. So for the sides here, I took photoshopped film rolls and I did the entire storyline of Mariah and Toni. So we have Mariah meeting Toni for the first time, Mariah dressed as Toni, Mariah on Toni's bosom, Mina and Toni kissing Mariah, Mariah turning on Toni, Mariah dressing as Toni, Mariah taunting Toni at All In. Mariah wins the AEW Women's World Championship at All In. Toni then returns in her old gimmick. Toni then reveals she's been tricking Mariah the whole time. Toni dressed as Mariah. Toni winning the title back at Grand Slam. Mariah attacking Toni and then saying they need a Hollywood ending. And then the infamous Mariah, Toni, try to kill God, I sentence you to a lifetime of mediocrity promo. So we have pretty much the entire storyline built up to this, and I did add this to my figure set as well because I thought it looked awesome. So now we have the front side, we have that side, we have that side, and then we have the back with our beautiful portrait and saying on the back there. I think this turned out really well. Actually, let me get mine. Hold on. There we go. So now I have made 2 of these, both awesome in their own ways. But holy cow, I am actually very proud that I took on this for this commission. I really hope that the customer likes theirs. Speaking of which, I need to add one more thing before this is complete. So, we have our stickers here. And I'm probably just going to throw those inside of the box too, that way they don't get lost in shipping. But yeah, I'm going to throw these in here. And there we go. Alright, but one more thing. So, on my custom it says one of two. So now, we need to finish off this before it can be shipped off to its new owner. Hold on. Oop, if I can get it. So we have 1 of 2. And then over here, we now have 2 of 2. And it is set to be sent off to its new owner. I am very excited. Thank you guys for watching, and I will see you guys next time.